Hello and welcome to the Secretariat. You're watching the Global Capsule. Well, it's been an eventful week, Sushma.
Yes.
Starting with Mr. Wang Yi's visit to New Delhi. He met Mr. Modi, he met NSA Doval. A lot of things have been discussed. It seems India-China relationship is once again on the mend. Of course, they've announced resumption of flights, resumption of visa issuance, lot of things. And the fact that he met Mr. Modi itself is something which has been talked about, because this is perhaps a not so common situation that Mr. Modi giving audience to Mr. Wang Yi.
Absolutely. I think in the last visit, Wang Yi was not able to meet Mr. Modi. And of course, ties have been literally frozen, as you can say, right since 2020. I mean, we had closed direct flights, we were not allowing visas, a wide range of issues that had been kept in abeyance, both from the Chinese side as well as from the Indian side. So now this is somewhat what you can say a kind of thaw in relationships has taken place. And what Wang Yi is saying is that it stemmed from last October's meeting at Kazan, the summit of BRICS, where Xi Jinping met Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and it's everything has stemmed from that. But you and I know that the sudden warmth obviously has come from the fact that both these countries are facing an assault as far as tariffs are concerned from the United States. Maybe China less so, but China also has to gear up for the fact that, the US is its largest market. India, of course, is facing a whopping 50% tariff. So suddenly the countries of the BRICS group, I would say, are kind of banding together. So there is definitely a bonhomie. We are talking in terms of China releasing the exports of items that India was deeply concerned about. These were three items. One was tunnel boring machines, one was fertilizers, and one was rare earth magnets. So the curbs that China had placed on exports to India have been removed, which is a great relief for India. And then, of course, the very contentious issue of business visas for Chinese personnel to work in projects over here. India had been very difficult about that. India had said that, you can only allow technical visas for people who are in the technical segment. Now they are going to allow visas for non-technical people, that is CEOs and other executives. Then, of course, the resumption of flights. So there's a wide range of issues on which suddenly there's an opening up. And the very fact that the Prime Minister is going to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Tianjin and all this preparation ahead of it, a kind of warmth that you see between the two countries stems from the fact that they are both facing, as I said, an onslaught from the US.
But at the same time, Sushma, actually one of our senior reporters, K.U. Dhandev, did a story which pointed out that businesses are still very wary, because they're still not, rejoicing the fact that, things have started moving between India and China, China being one of our biggest suppliers of raw material.
Correct.
Because, they want to wait and watch and see how things move, whether it is going to be short-lived, whether this trend continues is something which needs to be seen, because businesses are yet not really
they don't know which way to go.
Yes.
And I think one thing which is very important, we cannot downplay the impact of the tariffs. The fact is that the sectors which are going to be affected are very high employment intensive sectors.
Absolutely.
Whether it's textiles and apparels, whether it's shrimps, or whether it's gems and jewelry. These are areas where you have a large amount of jobs involved. But I think one of the good things is that business is already looking to pivot. I mean, the report has come that one of the biggest exporters is looking to, handle the orders which normally come to India from their units which are based in Bangladesh. I mean, they had Bangladesh and other countries. They had already set up units in Bangladesh to circumvent the fact that Bangladesh had lower duties in the European Union, especially compared to India. So, they're thinking of that. Some exporters, whether it's textiles or even seafood, are looking to put their units in the Gulf Cooperation Council countries. You will recall that Titan had bought a company called Damas.
Yes.
And that has its units in, of course, largely in West Asia. So they are thinking of using those kind of pivots. But definitely that will take time. Nothing is going to happen in a hurry.
Moving on to Russia, of course, we saw Russian ambassador coming and making that statement that, Russia will open up its market to India, considering that India is facing problems to export to the US. And of course, India-Russia relationship is always had a very smooth going. So on one hand, India has had to sort of reduce its oil imports from Russia. In July, the oil shipment to India has reduced, of course, as per the latest data. But at the same time, the two countries are forging ahead and they're committed to enhancing economic cooperation, economic and political cooperation and engagements. How do you see this?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. They are committed to the bilateral engagement, but it has once again, because of the United States having taken this action of high tariffs, and that too described the action of high tariffs against India as sanctions. Now, there's a difference between sanctions and tariffs. Tariffs are something that are put up by any country to protect their domestic industry, and they raise these tariffs or lower these tariffs to ensure that their people in their own country can get access to cheaper goods. But if those goods are produced in their own country, they do try to protect their own industry. So that's not seen as something which is seen as a penalty to another country. It's done in a very agnostic fashion. But sanctions are a very deliberate and targeted approach where, for instance, against Russia, there were sanctions because Russia had invaded Ukraine, and Western countries had thought that we should try and curb the Russian economic engine. So there were a lot of actions taken to try and prevent Russia from growing economically. Similarly, way back in the 90s, when India had done a nuclear test, there were sanctions against India. India was not allowed to buy arms or nuclear equipment, nuclear machinery.
Absolutely.
So there were sanctions. So there's a difference. But now the White House is describing tariffs as sanctions. And it just shows, I mean, do they understand what they're saying? We wonder.
Absolutely. What you said, Sushma, we've seen the White House coming up and putting out a statement saying that the tariffs which have been slapped against India are actually targeted towards Russia. What exactly what you said, that sanctions and tariffs are not the same thing.
Yes.
So the White House, of course, has said that the tariffs imposed on India are actually meant or are targeted at Russia, so that Moscow, it's a kind of a pressure tactic for Moscow to sort of end the war with Ukraine. Now, obviously, such kind of actions don't work.
Yes,
clearly.
Certainly not. Certainly not. I mean, Russia would certainly not have come to the negotiating table simply because India is going to reduce its oil imports, and that too by a negligible amount. We have reduced, but it's marginal. We're still importing fairly large quantities of oil from Russia. And coming back to what you had talked about, the bilateral economic engagement, we must remember that, both the External Affairs Minister, Mr. Jaishankar, has talked about the fact that, that Russian industry should engage with Indian industry, and we should have more investment, we should have more bilateral projects. And just now we have had the Russian ambassador over here saying that, we are prepared to become a market for Indian goods. And I think here is where you have a mutual benefit to both countries. Russia, which used to buy consumer goods and a lot of heavy machinery from the West, is now looking to buy this kind of stuff from India. India similarly needs a market because US is going to be closed or become very difficult, become uncompetitive. So there's going to be a great deal of mutual benefit in this. And in the midst of this, of course, there's a talk about, there is actual signing of the terms of reference with the Eurasian Economic Union, which is Belarus, Armenia, the Kyrgyz Republic, Kazakhstan, and Russia. And these 5 countries have a GDP of about $6.3 trillion, which is fairly large. And apparently, our bilateral trade with this group is about $69 billion. So that's also fairly large.
Like
so,
you said, the focus has always been on either China or US.
Exactly.
So now it's time for India to really look at other markets, and India has aggressively started doing that. In a way, what you said is so right, because many experts, trade analysts have said that what hasn't happened in many years, this tariff has really pushed India and even other countries to relook, to rejig its trade dynamics and diversify markets.
Absolutely. I think this crisis can be turned into an opportunity. If we look at it the right way, of course, it's something difficult.
Absolutely.
But I think a trade, industry, and the government will have to combine to make this kind of change.
Like you said, every challenge comes with an opportunity, and let's see how India turns this challenge into an opportunity. And of course, next week we have Mr. Modi visiting China. That's going to be another high point and much watched. Thank you, and see you next week.